Hey there, great people. Thanks so much for dialing in. Touching base to let you know that as with all of our content, this is general in nature. It does not take into account your specific or personal circumstances nor your individual risk profile, and as such should not be acted on accordingly. If you get value from this and you want to explore some things further, I strongly recommend that you get personal advice from a qualified professional. Very lucky to have Ben Williamson with us, founder of Mindset 365. Ben is a performance and transition and mindset coach and has also worked in AFL broadcasting and in a managerial role with the Australian Border Force. So stress management and performance mindsets are something Ben has had to deal with a lot of his working life. This episode is particularly of interest around tools and tips for managing stress, a little bit different to a traditional financial podcast, but I hope you like it and get lots of value. Let's jump in. Hello and g'day to Benny Williamson from Mindset 365, performance and transition coach, I believe is the correct terminology. I've known Ben for a long time, so thanks for dialing in with us today, Ben.
Johnny, thanks for having me, mate. Yeah, we go way back, I think, don't we? Footy days. I think we've probably been out of the game for longer than we were in it. So it's a bit of a scary thought, isn't it?
Long-running battles we had, but all good there. Ben, performance and transition coach is not a normal term most of us would have heard of. Just pretending we're at a barbecue and you've got to tell me in a minute or less what a performance and transition coach does, what your origin story is. How would you go about it?
Yeah, good question. You're right, Johnny. It's not something that I don't know. It's not at a barbecue. It's a different conversation, isn't it? It's a bit of a strange one. People don't really expect it. So in that setting, performance and transition coach, you'd put it this way. I help individuals and teams go from where they are currently to where they want to be. And I do that through one-on-one coaching, workshop facilitations, as you'd know, and keynote speaking. It's the three that I really target. And their passions are mine, but it's really, for me, coming back to the origins and the reasons why I do what I do. It's a human-to-human connection for me. That's what it's all about. It's a people-based business that I've always had that at the front of the mind. Growing up in the country, I suppose, whether you like it or not, you find yourself talking to a lot of different people. And as we grow out of those country regions, mate, we still bring our traits with us into the bigger markets and the bigger areas. And that's all about networking. And again, that's for me, it's just about, I love people, I always have. Finding what works and what I'm passionate about, and also trying to guide, assist people and help people get out of life what they want. And I've been able to put the head down for about 2 or 3 years and do the study I've needed to, and align that a little bit with some previous work experiences that I've been able to do over the last sort of 15, 20 years too, mate. And it's got me to, that tagline of that performance and transition coach, which is, it's a really exciting ride and thus far loving it.
Yeah, great, Benny. And Mindset 365 now, but you've worked in a lot of high pressure environments along the way. So you've done AFL broadcasting. You currently work at the Border Force in Geelong on the ports there. And I suppose, can you just take us a bit more through your origin story, what you've done and the high pressure environments you've been in and how that's led you into this space of harnessing that and helping people overcome and perform in those environments?
Yeah, and it's curiosity, I suppose, for me, like being in those environments. I don't know. I think I was more drawn to it, having that people-centric mindset for me, which I suppose is a natural feel, and then aligning it with, you say, high-stress environments. At the time when you're doing it, you don't really realise they are high stress. It's when you sit back and zoom out a little bit and go, wow, that was pretty intense, and enduring that over the long term and just being excited about it. And then getting curious, like I said before, about, okay, what makes me enjoy this, and then in turn what makes other people potentially enjoy that high stress side of things as well. So getting curious, drilling down, I then studied a diploma of life coaching in Melbourne at Life Coaching College, which was amazing in terms of what you learn about yourself and then other people. That really put it all together. As you said, the broadcasting, that was about 7 years, calling the footy back in the Wimmera where we're from, mate. Started there with the boys and absolutely loved my time there. And again, probably because of the people, I think that's what it was all about for me. We played footy there for 15 years or whatever it was, but then we get to go back in the community and give them something that had never happened before. I don't think a game of the round every week, which was, it's from a farming community. People are on tractors, can't get to the footy, listen to their grandsons or their sons, whatever it is, playing footy. And we were able to bring that into their tractors or in their lounge rooms, whatever it was, paint the picture for them as best we possibly could. That was really cool and something I'm really proud of, and they're still doing it to this day. So with Cougs and the boys back there, which is awesome. And then, led into some AFL ultimately for 3 years with K-Rock down here in Geelong, which was a completely different experience. That you can go from sitting at Coghlan Park one week, and then the next thing you're sitting level 2 on the MCG calling Melbourne and Hawthorn on a Sunday afternoon. It's really exhilarating. So again, it's being able to perform in those moments, I guess. If you want to attach the stress to it, you can, but it's highly likely that your performance won't be where it needs to be. So dealing with that, and then obviously, as you said, tailoring it back towards the Australian Border Force, which is where I am now, and there's Maritime Division. That's where I'm based. Operational command duty. So they're leading operations then. So you've got a number of staff, 20 to 30 staff potentially you have to lead on operations, which are obviously highly intensive at times as well, dealing with what we're dealing with at the border. So again, it's a lot of similar skills, I should say, the leadership qualities, but the communication element's fundamental. But again, it comes back to the people. It comes back to what you're delivering and how you deliver it and maintain your composure in any situation, I think. Probably what I love about what I do is, it's a work environment and it's who I operate with, but it's not just work skills, it's life skills, I think. And that's probably what I really enjoy about what I do. Yes, it's managing everything, but again, really enjoy the output as well.
Yeah, great, mate. And I know you did a workshop with our team and we got a lot of value out of that and a lot of tools and resources to
Awesome.
use. And again, at that barbecue, I assume when you tell people that you work in performance and mindset and these types of areas, you get some interesting reactions, Ben. What's one common misconception what a performance and transition or mindset coach does?
Look, I think people understand straight away that you're there for the greater good. I think you're not going to do a job, you're not going to put yourself into these sort of work environments without having that level of care. So straight away, people probably get that. It's just what you can attach to that. And this is life, right? We all have a different, what we call a map of the world. We all see things differently, and that's based on our previous experiences and our beliefs and our upbringings. But what I find, there's no real misconceptions. Some people might think it's all mindfulness and it's all about sitting on a rug and putting your fingers together and breathing. It's not. We all have thoughts, we all have a brain, and we all have challenges. I think it's 75% of the things we worry about often don't come true in the first place. Yeah. So we have so much going on in our brains, and our brains are for survival, not pleasure. So how do we mitigate some of these things? It doesn't care. Your brain doesn't care what you do, all right, for an occupation. It's all about survival. Regardless of what you think, I suppose, in terms of what it is about, we're all in the same boat. We all have 2 arms and 2 legs, and we're doing the best we possibly can with what we've got at the time. So no real misconceptions that I've had. Some people will go, wow, tell me more. That's exciting. And other people just might not know what to say, and they don't. And that's okay. It's not exactly confronting, but it's something that's new, and some people might not want to dive into it. So I certainly don't press people on it. I just tell them what I do, and obviously you just let it roll from there. But you can have some really cool chats about it, and I have in the past, but I think people can certainly see the value in regards to who I work with, who I've worked with so far, and who I continue to work with. Obviously, Apex Advice is a really good client and great people. So that's the spin-off I get, is to go in there and make an impact on just you, but your staff as well, mate, and have a good time along the way.
Yeah, brilliant. And you work professionals and everyday teachers and stuff like that, as well as professional athletes in their field. So people at the top of their game in their field. Just painting me a picture, when a typical client comes to see you, but the first time they work through the door, what do you find generally brought them to that point to reach out and talk to you?
Yeah, good question. And everyone's different, but ultimately, I think people know, and whether it's an athlete, and some people might be looking for a bit of stress management, because let's face it, mate, we live in a pretty trying environment at the moment. The world's pretty challenging. So some people just want to learn some tools and mitigate some of those stresses as best they possibly can. And we're being pulled to all parts of the compass in life. It's certainly handy to have some of those tips. But other people, certainly, especially athletes, they know they can achieve more. They know there's something more for them. And they're constantly doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. When they do contact me and we do start working together, it's amazing to see some of the epiphanies, I suppose, mate, and that you can see it. And that's what the best part about coaching is. You can actually see at times the aha moments of people, just something clicks. And if you do a 2-hour workshop and someone takes 5% away, but it's a nugget of gold for them that can then align where they are to where they want to be. We're aligning our mindset with our skill set. From what you do, you're bringing the skill set with you. All I'm doing is aligning that mindset and then enhancing it. So part of our ability to move forward and to get where we want to get to is being able to be stretched and having an understanding of, yes, I am being stretched here, but that's part of the process. That's uncomfortable, That's where we want to be. That's good. Yep. So leaning into that process, putting a level of trust into that, and then just being able to continue on and watch yourself grow and feel yourself grow. And that's my job, is to be able to guide you through that and hold you accountable and give you some guidance. I'm never going to tell you what to do, but I'll hold a mirror up for you and ask you some really good questions. And as I said, the best part about what I do is people don't care what you know until they know you care. So as soon as they understand that, the process becomes a bit easier. So everyone's different, Johnny, but that's where I find it when we are having these conversations, it's alluding to.
Yeah. Yep. And this concept of a high achiever trap, which I see it in financial terms, is when you see someone with the Rolex or the fancy car or a nice home and that sort of thing, and you think they're killing it or crushing it. And I see it with people all the time, successful people who look like they've got their shit together. We can see it a little bit here, but secretly maybe they're struggling. What do you see there? What's going on with that? What do you notice?
And it happens, right? And this is what I was saying before. It's funny, like in terms of how our brain works sometimes, mate, but at times they could be at conflict. And again, without knowing a personal situation, I would say they're at conflict. Quite often, you can dangle a carrot. It's like saying to somebody, hey, come and do this job. We'll give you an extra 20 grand a year. Great. You can dangle the carrot there. But where's your motivators? Is it extrinsic motivators for the Rolex and for the Land Rover? But over time, that's going to rot, because if you haven't got an intrinsic motivator, the internal driver, eventually that carrot's going to rot. If it's not important to you internally, it's never going to work out. So if you feel the need to, again, play the high achiever, and don't get me wrong, everyone's different and whatever works, that's fine. But ultimately, you will find yourself over time burnt out and at conflict internally in terms of what's going on. You've really got to work out. And part of what I do is working out what's important to you. And then why is that important? What value are you ticking off when you get that Rolex? Yeah, but it's really understanding that.
I reckon I've literally had 2 clients in the last fortnight that have left higher paying jobs because they're burning them from the inside and they're taking it home and that sort of stuff, moving on to lower paying jobs that are more fulfilling or less stressful. Now, just in terms of practicality, so I think before the stat you said was something to the effect of 75% of our thoughts are negative up front or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're hardwired to have those negative thoughts. In terms of, you've got this concept around learning to swim in the emotions or with your emotions as opposed to wrestling them. And that's just a memory from our workshop. But most people, I and myself included, where we wrestle with them, we're stressing about big decisions or big work pressures, and they'll generally try to push through and ignore it. What does swimming with your emotions actually look like in practice?
Yeah, good question. And good memory too, Johnny. Plenty of takeaways there. We have on average around 50 to 60,000 thoughts per day on average.
Yep.
85% of them are unhelpful or negative. And again, it comes back to that safe brain. Okay. With that, if you're having 85% of those thoughts are negative or unhelpful, as you said, we're going to experience so many different emotions. So what we tend to do, we try to go, again, internal, but we've got this ability to try and just push through situations. And it's a bit of an old school mentality, to be completely honest. Yep, I'm just going to push through this. It is what it is. I'm just going to push through. I'm just going to push through. So we just tend to suppress all these emotions, right? And we're talking about burnout, and potentially with those clients you're talking about, they might have been suppressing all these emotions and who knows what else for the last 5 to 10 years. And it gets to a point where you go, you know what, I've had enough. Now, what happens there is when emotions are high, quite often rational thinking's low. So when we act on emotion, it's probably not going to be favorable. You think about an outburst, or you think about you sitting in traffic and someone cuts you off and you explode. Big deal. Someone's cut you off. It's not about the fact that someone's cut you off. It's about the fact that there's something else going on. And 9 times out of 10, you are wrestling an emotion and you are suppressing that emotion over time, which will burn you out. And it'll leak. A behavioral leak will come out where you probably least expect it. It could be getting angry at the kids. You know, it could be being distant from your wife. It could be, you know what, it could be what we call a maladaptive response, where you'll just sit on your phone for 2.5 hours and not talk to anybody, using a distraction. Obviously, substance abuse and these sorts of things we're well aware of as well for some pretty challenging situations. So we speak about having the ability to swim with the emotion, as you said, and that's just using the acceptance piece. Okay, yeah, validating an emotion. Okay, right now I'm feeling pretty angry. Recognizing it, and you can't change or you can't do anything about a certain emotion until we're aware of it. You have to be able to understand what's happening at any given moment. once you do have that awareness, you can actually do something about it. If you are feeling angry at that particular moment, it's going to pass, right? It's not going to be with you forever. So whether you have to remind yourself, look, this will pass. And I speak about processes, mate, as when I took you through a couple of processes, which was really cool. And it's always going to be individual for people, how that works. But your ability to breathe through that sometimes, if you are in traffic, a couple of deep breaths. Someone's cut you off. I'll bring it back to that example. A couple of deep breaths. Because what you're doing is you're switching off your fight and flight. You're telling your brain, actually, no, I'm okay. And part of that scientific stuff is what we call your amygdala, part of your brain detects the threats and basically hijacks what we call the prefrontal cortex at the left side of your brain. And that's your problem solving. That's your rational thinking side of your brain. You're offline. So having the ability to breathe and get your brain back online in any situation. And I often quite say to people, just be where your feet are. And if you have to look at your feet to physically remind you of where you are, just to breathe, just do it, because it's going to anchor you to the moment. Breathe through it and know it'll pass. It'll always pass. Otherwise, we're going to act on emotion, mate, and blow up. And it's hard to take things back once we're at that stage. Yeah. Challenging though, mate, because it hits it all. No one's immune to it. It hits everyone. So it's challenging.
Totally. We're hardwired to be that way. And sometimes media, and particularly in the financial world, this stuff's against us in terms of news and media. Just back to that things you can versus what you can't control, Benny. I find people spend a lot of their energy focusing on things that they can't control, and rather than doubling down and focusing on the things they can control. How do you find, or what's the best process or way for people to actually figure out the difference between what actually matters versus what doesn't?
Yeah, good. Again, we're hardwired for it, Johnny. And I think if we look at it this way, there's a framework that I use called APE. And an APE is so simple. But again, it comes back to the awareness piece. And as you could probably work out, a lot of the work I do is based on emotional intelligence. And I like to say it's EI over IQ. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you can't manage your emotions, it's to your detriment. And also, of course, your ability to recognize these emotions in other people is so important, but a really cool skill if you can nail it, especially in the world of AI when technology is certainly taking over. This skill will never die. But breaking it down into the APE framework, realistically, the only things we get to control in the world, our attitude, our preparation, our performance, and our level of effort that we put out there. That's it. Anything else around that or externally, we call the devils in disguise. And that's what you're talking about. So the things that come out that we try and control and drain our energy on a daily basis, but we haven't got any control over it. So why do we worry about that? And again, we will do that because you said we're hardwired for it, and you're right. However, the awareness piece, and it's your ability to zoom out sometimes when things are tough and go, okay, what's important now? What can I actually do about this situation right here, right now? If there's nothing, from a team perspective, you can write that down on a whiteboard, and we did, and put a line through it. You've got to be able to move on from that because it's taking so much from your emotional and your mental capacity day in, day out that you find at the end of the day, you don't actually have time to put the focus where you need to because you've been worried about things you can't control anyway. I think there was a stat done in the States, a college US baseball team. They followed a team around for 5 nights and they surveyed them pretty severely game after game, and they found that those players spent 90 to 95% of the time in the can't control, which is huge. So they're worried about the scoreboard, they're worried about the weather conditions, they're worried about what their coaches think, potentially what their families think. They can't control all that sort of stuff. It comes back to that APE framework, your attitude towards your home life, your family, your work, your preparation into what you do to work. What sort of preparation have I done? Because we all know that's where our confidence comes from. If we're prepared, we're confident. Yeah, that's a direct controllable. Performance, so how do we roll that out? How do we actually present a level of effort? So what sort of effort are we putting into that? No matter what it is, what are we putting into it? And that is all direct controllable from us internally. I try and keep it pretty simple, Johnny, with that sort of framework, but again, it's tailored to whoever needs it and where it can go. But I feel like the feedback in terms of what I do quite often, it's one that really resonates. Yeah. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Brilliant, mate. Devils in, I like that. You were giving me old footy coach, Ben, so I can tell you there before. But so I wrote this one down, actually. So you break resilience into a couple of areas: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I find like most of us just think when we're stressed or things aren't going well, we need to probably just exercise more. But what are they missing from the other areas?
Yeah, it's a good one. There's a guy by the name of Jim Lower who was a high performance expert and still continues to be, but he had the High Performance Institute back in the States a very long time ago. And Jim basically created what we call the PEMS structure, PEMS model, which is physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Exactly what you just said. In terms of high performance, and that's how they tagged it. It's not always everyone's cup of tea, the high performance, but that is looking at the person as a whole body, as opposed to, as you said, just one element. So ideally, we want to get to what we call an ideal performance state. And that's a sustained state that we can continue to perform at a high level for a long period of time. And it's challenging in 2025 because, as you said, we get pulled apart in so many different areas. So yes, you're right. We want to make sure that our physical element, we start at the physical element because that's our energy source from our body. So are we putting in the effort into maintaining our body? And that is physical component. I'm not saying everyone has to go and be a CrossFitter or run 20 Ks a morning. It's just not the case. And again, it's tailored to the individual. Is it a walk around the block? What is it that gets your blood flowing a little bit? Also, how does your sleep look? How does your hydration look? And what's your nutrition all about? Yeah. And we hear it all the time and it's boring, but it's boring for a reason because it works. Yeah. So that's your physical component. Your emotional component is your ability to, as I said before, with your emotional intelligence. So what does that actually look like? Everyone needs to have a look at that scale and go, we know that we operate from about a 90 to 120 minute window. Anything outside of that is we're going to start to get challenged and fatigued and pulled away. So what can I then do daily that'll actually help me fuel what I need for longer, basically? And we try and get all these quadrants into habits, daily performance habits that will actually, as I said, keep us in what we call an ideal performance state each day. And it's different for everyone, but everyone, I feel like, can go through this. Then we get to the mental state, and the mental state is, again, what we're looking at from how we look at certain situations, and that could be the 8 framework. All right. So what are we building into that as part of our day that sets us up? Are we bookending our day? Do we have the same AM routine and the same PM routine that gives us the best chance? And then we roll into a spiritual, which is basically your why. And that's what we spoke about before with your intrinsic motivators. That's what drives you. Because when things get hard, you got to remember what it's all about. And your spiritual component is pretty much the cornerstone, I think, of the structure that keeps everything. They're good reminders, mate. And whether you've got a drink bottle at the side of your desk to have a swig, and then as you're thinking about what you're doing, having a drink of water, but being grateful for something, just being grateful for the fact you've got current employment or whatever it looks like, your kids or your family or anything. I love to work through that with people, whether it's individuals, athletes, or it's teachers, or it's anyone, frontline, corporate. Because it's the same for athletes as it is for frontline workers or anyone in the game, for that matter, corporate, because we all want to get the best out of ourselves and we want to make sure we've got the right amount of energy to get through a day. And building these things into habits and rituals is going to give yourself the best chance. And it's simple stuff. It doesn't have, you don't have to overcomplicate it, but it's really simple stuff that we can do. Benefits are huge.
Yeah, love it. And so you speak about this driver's seat process, Ben. So
yeah,
just walk me through or unpack that just really briefly, maybe with a real scenario or someone you might have helped with it.
The driver's seat is a bit of a combination of probably the PEM structure, Dr. Jim's work. So it's a process. And I guess with the fight and flight, we've all been in situations before where we've just felt like we're not in control. Yep. And that's, like I said before, anxiety takes over and we find ourselves in what we call a fight, flight, or freeze in one of those moments. And that's, again, understanding what the brain does. Amygdala takes over the prefrontal cortex and we are compromised. Have you ever been in an argument or a heated discussion with somebody and then the discussion ends or the argument ends and you walk away and 10 minutes later you go, geez, I wish I had said that. I just thought of something. I should have said that. We've all been there. And the reason why you can't do that is because you can't access this part of the brain because you're compromised. So your ability to be calm in any situation, whether it be at work or at home with the kids or in sport when the pressure's on, is what's going to drive your outcome. So we don't want to be in the passenger seat of life in those situations because we don't actually have a direct control of our destination in the passenger seat. Yeah, we can influence it, but we're not at the wheel. So it's called the driver's seat because we want to be able to take control of our destination, meaning we want to be able to take control of the control center, basically, which is us, and give ourselves the best chance to make the best decisions. So to give an example, mate, probably, look, working with some golfers. As you can imagine, a closed sport like golf, the pressure is on, and you've got so much time with golf to think. And that can be challenging sometimes when you're dealing in the heat of a battle and you've got so much time to think about what's going on. It can be really challenging. So working with some guys there, finding some really good processes and getting some great results out of that is really pleasing. But that looks like something like a physical component is the first part, is what we talk about. What's your physical component? So you need to be able to recognize the stress situation. I'm feeling stressed, okay? But again, we want to build it into a habit and a ritual every single time, not a sometimes thing, an every time thing. So the physical component for them might be before a shot, they're going to physically squeeze the handle. Yep, that's their physical component. For somebody who's working in, say, healthcare and they're dealing with back-to-back clients, they might have 10 or 12 a day. It's pretty full on. They're wearing all those challenges that each 10 or 12 people are bringing in, and then you've got about a minute between, 2 minutes between them, you've got to go again. So it's combative. So for them, they find that some people write a person's name down, Johnny Manserra, name down on a post-it note. When you leave, I'm going to scrunch that up and I'm going to throw it in the bin. It's telling your brain, hey, we're moving on. We're moving on here. It's a release component for a reason, a physical component for a reason. The second one is breath. And as I said before, mate, so important to breathe. And that's the actual key element to getting our brain back online, because our brain's detected a threat that's actually not there in the first place, but it thinks it is because it's trying to keep us safe. So you need to take 5 to 6, whatever it is for you, breathing components. I think we've all heard of box breathing, all that sort of stuff, which is amazing, but it's amazing for a reason. But you've got to breathe through the diaphragm. Too often we breathe too shallow. Makes it worse. So we need to breathe big and through the diaphragm, up through the chest, and drop our shoulders and our jaw at the same time. That's where we hold our stress. Drop all that. Yep. And in turn, we're telling our brain, no, actually, I've got this. It's under control. It's not a threat. From there, it's a verbal trigger. And we've all heard of mantras and those sorts of things that we've had. And the reason is, if you go through the PEMS process, this is the emotional element. It's having the right words at the right time, because, or at any given time, because as I said before, we've got all these negative thoughts. It's a bit like a radio station. You get in a car and you hear a terrible song. What's the first thing you do? You're going to get in there and you're going to change the channel. So it's no different to our thoughts. We get the power of choice as humans. We can choose what thoughts to put in our head. It's a bit of a game of tennis. Like, thoughts might come into our head. We didn't think, where'd that come from? But the next return might be your turn to put a decent one in there. So the more we can think positively and put these words that relate to us into our head, you're releasing good chemicals and we're on the right track. We're getting this process rolling. So I often say to people, get that mantra in your head. Something's going to ground you, and it could be a word like release, or, I can do hard things, whatever it is that sticks in your head. And then from there, mate, it's just a final thought. And we know what it's like. We've been smashed at work and potentially we might be coming up to a holiday. Picture the holiday. Picture something that you enjoy, that you know is going to make you happy. Because again, we're de-escalating a situation in our head, and we've got a process. And that's not sometimes, that's every time. So with a golfer, if you bring it back to that, he's doing that every single time. And it might take him about 10 seconds, but he's doing it every time. So then he's not standing over the ball stressed, thinking about, if I miss this, I'm going to go back 3 shots. Regardless of the outcome, it doesn't matter. It's all about the process. Follow the process, let the outcome take care of itself, be in the moment, and just make it happen. And the cool thing about it is that from a corporate athlete, again, we get that opportunity to do the same thing. So connecting with all family and friends is also a really good one too in stressful times, because we can set up coffee dates, lunches, whatever. We've got something to look forward to. So that's the emotional piece in that sort of stuff. So there's always something we can do, but we want to be able to build that into like with the PEMS model, we want to be able to build that into a habit daily, make our life easier.
Benny, how good was that? So many tips, tools, and thoughts for people to move forward with. So thank you so much. In terms of wanting to find out more about you and find Mindset 365, how can people find out more about you?
Yeah, thanks, Johnny. Mindset365.com.au is my website. Ben at mindset365.com.au is my email. I've got a podcast called Responsibility by Mindset 365, which is a lot of fun. It's, again, getting the time to get in there and get that sort of rolling too, but a lot of fun in there. But you can, as I said, you can go straight to the website and contact me through there, through email. More than happy just to have a chat to people and find out what's going on for them and find out some of their pain points and see if I can assist moving forward. But again, it's, as I said before, mate, life's tough. So we need as many tools as we can get at the helm and keep batting on and fighting the good fight.
Too good, mate. There's a couple of good yarns on there. I can vouch for it. So, look him up. And thanks again, mate.
Thanks for having me, Johnny. Really appreciate it, mate. It's awesome.
Bye now.